In global economics, we are taught a simple rule. A strong currency reflects a strong nation. The British pound once ruled the world. The US dollar became the symbol of American power. Investors equate rising exchange rates with prestige, dominance, stability. But what if that rule is wrong? What if the greatest manufacturing empire in human history wasn't built on a powerful currency, but on a deliberately weak one? What if strength wasn't displayed in exchange rate charts, but hidden inside factories, ports, and shipping containers? Because for nearly 3 decades, China did something extraordinary. While the West celebrated strong currencies and financial markets, China engineered its money to stay cheap. And in doing so, it quietly rewired the global economy. This is the story of how the Chinese yuan became a weapon. Normally, currencies behave like stocks. If a country exports more than it imports, foreigners need that country's currency to pay for goods. Demand rises, the currency strengthens. This is basic supply and demand. In the 1990s and early 2000s, China became an export powerhouse. The world wanted Chinese electronics, clothing, machinery, and components. By textbook logic, the yuan should have soared. But it didn't, because China refused to let it. Beijing implemented what is known as a managed peg, tying the yuan to the US dollar at an artificially low rate. Imagine a coiled spring. China's trade success was pushing that spring upward. But every time it tried to rise, the government pressed its foot down. How? Through intervention. When demand for the yuan increased, the People's Bank of China printed vast amounts of yuan and used that newly created money to buy US dollars. This accomplished 2 critical goals. First, it flooded markets with yuan, suppressing its value. Second, it allowed China to accumulate massive foreign currency reserves, primarily US dollars. At its peak, China held nearly $4 trillion in reserves. They weren't just saving money, they were accumulating leverage. Those dollars didn't sit idle. China used them to buy US Treasury bonds, effectively lending money back to the United States. This created one of the most unusual financial relationships in modern history. America consumed, China produced, and then China financed the consumption. It was a circular system. The United States bought Chinese goods. China received dollars. China reinvested those dollars into US debt, which kept US interest rates low, which allowed Americans to borrow more, which funded more purchases of Chinese goods. It was symbiotic and destabilizing. China became both factory and banker, and the weak yuan was the engine powering it all. Currency value isn't abstract, it's embedded in price tags. When the yuan was held artificially low, every product exported from China carried a built-in discount. Not because of efficiency alone, not just because of labor costs, but because the exchange rate itself acted as a permanent subsidy. Estimates suggest the yuan may have been undervalued by 20% to 30% during key years of China's rise. Imagine competing against a factory that automatically gets a 30% discount on every product before production even begins. Western manufacturers couldn't survive that. Entire industries hollowed out, steel plants closed, textile mills vanished, electronics manufacturing migrated. Supply chains shifted eastward. Economists later called it the China shock. But it wasn't a shock. It was strategy. What makes China's system even more unique is something most people never hear about. There isn't just one yuan, there are 2. CNY, the onshore yuan used inside mainland China. CNH, the offshore yuan traded internationally in places like Hong Kong and London. This dual structure created a financial firewall. Inside China, the government maintained strict capital controls. Money couldn't freely flow in and out. Speculators couldn't easily attack the currency. Outside China, the offshore yuan allowed global trade and investment. By splitting its currency system, China combined the benefits of global capitalism with the control of a command economy. Western democracies couldn't replicate this even if they wanted to. Their currencies float freely. Their capital markets are open. China built a hybrid model, and for decades it worked. But there was a cost. A weak currency doesn't just make exports cheaper, it makes imports more expensive. For ordinary Chinese citizens, foreign goods cost more than they otherwise would have. Their purchasing power was suppressed. In effect, the government prioritized national industrial power over individual consumption. Households saved more than they spent, and those savings had to go somewhere. At the same time, the central bank was printing massive quantities of yuan to manage the exchange rate. That liquidity flooded into domestic assets, especially real estate. The result? Massive property development. Entire cities built ahead of demand. Tower blocks standing half empty. The infamous ghost cities. These weren't random accidents. They were the internal side effects of an externally focused currency strategy. The weak yuan built factories, but it also built bubbles. For years, Western governments tolerated this system. Consumers benefited from cheap goods. Corporations enjoyed higher margins. But over time, the strategic consequences became impossible to ignore. Manufacturing capacity migrated. Supply chains became dependent on China. Critical industries, from electronics to pharmaceuticals, relied on Chinese production. By the late 2010s, the narrative shifted. Tariffs were introduced. Trade wars escalated. The term de-risking entered political vocabulary. The West began to question whether short-term cheap imports were worth long-term strategic vulnerability. And China understood something crucial. The era of quietly manipulating the yuan might be nearing its limit. So they evolved to enter the digital yuan. Officially known as the e-CNY, it is not simply digital cash. It is programmable money. Unlike decentralized cryptocurrencies, the digital yuan is issued and controlled directly by the Chinese central bank. It can be tracked, it can be monitored, it can even be programmed with conditions. But its most important feature is geopolitical. For decades, the US dollar has dominated global trade. Oil, commodities, and cross-border transactions are largely settled in dollars. This dominance gives the United States enormous power. Through the SWIFT banking system, Washington can restrict countries from accessing global financial networks. Sanctions become financial weapons. China's digital yuan offers an alternative pathway. By enabling direct central bank to central bank transactions, it reduces reliance on the US financial system. China has already conducted cross-border transactions using digital currency with nations including Russia and others seeking alternatives to the dollar system. If the weak yuan was phase 1, conquering manufacturing, the digital yuan may be phase 2, reshaping financial power. We are entering a new era. For decades, the global system revolved around one financial sun, the US dollar. Now, alternative systems are emerging. China isn't trying to replace the dollar overnight. That would be destabilizing. Instead, it is building parallel infrastructure, a system where trade can flow without touching American banks, where currency influence is distributed, not centralized, where monetary strategy becomes geopolitical strategy. The question is no longer whether the yuan is weak or strong. The question is whether currency strength even means what we thought it did. China proved that exchange rates are not reflections of power. They are instruments of it. We often view economies like weather systems, natural, organic, unpredictable. But China demonstrated something different. Currencies can be engineered. Exchange rates can be suppressed. Monetary policy can be weaponized for industrial dominance. China sacrificed the prestige of a strong currency to gain something more tangible: factories, infrastructure, the global supply chain control. They traded symbolic strength for structural power. And it worked. For 30 years, while the West optimized for financial markets and strong currencies, China optimized for production capacity. One side built wealth on balance sheets. The other built it in ports and industrial zones. The next time you see a Made in China label, understand that you are not just looking at a product. You are looking at the outcome of a decades-long currency strategy. A strategy that rebalanced global manufacturing. A strategy that turned exchange rates into competitive weapons. A strategy now evolving into a digital financial challenge to the dollar system itself. In the 20th century, power was measured in armies. In the 21st century, it may be measured in monetary control. The lesson of the yuan is simple but profound. The nation that controls the price of its money controls the flow of global trade. And the nation that controls trade shapes the future. The era of unquestioned dollar dominance may not end tomorrow, but the foundations of a multipolar financial world are already being laid. Quietly, strategically, deliberately, just as they were 3 decades ago. When China chose to appear weak, so it could become strong.